Before moving to the third question of getting started series, I want to discuss the standard transformation equation. Now let's discuss quickly what all these things mean. Y of course means the result, the output, whatever transformation we have got. So output here is going to be the transformed equation. Then we have A. A is going to tell you about the vertical stretch or compression, whether your graph is going to vertically stretch or compress. Then we have function of B. So B is going to tell you about the stretch and compression as well, but the horizontal. So B will tell you about the horizontal stretch or the horizontal compression. I'm not going to write it complete. Okay. H is going to tell you about the horizontal shift. Horizontal shift is also called the horizontal translation. That means how much your graph has moved on the x-axis. Then K is going to tell you about the vertical shift or the vertical translation. Translation means movement. So how much your graph has moved on the y-axis. This is all that it is going to tell. Now let's discuss the values as well. So vertical stretch and vertical compression. That means when your A is greater than 1, it is going to stretch. However, when A is between 0 and 1, it is going to compress. And if A is less than 0, that means if A is negative, in that case it is going to reflect, the transformed graph is going to reflect on x-axis. We are going to discuss all the question. I hope we'll get questions on each of these characteristic of the transformation. If not, then I'll propose a question on my own just to practice all these transformations in one graph as a whole. Similar to A, but a little opposite, we have the characteristics of B. That means if A is greater than 1, it stretches. However, if B is greater than 1, it compresses. Because the difference between A and B is A works for the vertical characteristic and B works for the horizontal characteristic. That means if A is stretching, if your original graph is like this, now it is like this. But if your B is stretching, and this is again the original graph, now the original graph is like this. So this is the vertical stretch, this is the horizontal stretch. Moving forward, if B lies between 0 and 1, it is going to stretch. Again, if B is a negative number less than 1, our graph is going to reflect, but this time it is going to reflect on y-axis. And then for H, horizontal shift and translation. If you see that the equation we have is x minus h, right? That means if h is positive, that means my equation is going to stay as it is. That means if in the transformed graph, inside the bracket, it looks like this, my graph is going to move to the right. However, if h is negative, that means my equation inside the graph is going to look like this, and that means my graph is going to move towards the left hand side. Now, similarly for K, if K is positive, it is going to be up. If K is negative, it is going to be down. Very straightforward for the vertical translation or vertical shift. Now, why I discuss all these characteristics? Because the question 3 in the Getting Started series depend upon this entire transformation. So it makes sense that we are prepared with all the knowledge.